All right. Well, it's noon, and I believe we have a quorum. I will call the service committee to order, and Angela, if you'll call the roll.
Mr. Brennan.
Present.
Mr. Fergus.
Present.
Ms. Gleaton. Ms. Herbert. Ms. Mood.
Present.
Advisory members, Mr. Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins. I think you're muted.
There he is.
I'm here.
Mr. Coon. Ms. Robinson. And you have a quorum.
All right. Then the next item is adoption of the agenda. To have a motion.
So moved.
And a second.
A second.
Okay. Any discussion? I would, this is not an agenda change, but I will tell you that when we get to 5A, that item is a little bit more than the paratransit. It's really a follow-up on the public questions that we got at the last board meeting. And so one of them involved paratransit, the other had to do with the trees at the bus stop. Yes. So it's not a change in an agenda item. It's just, we'll be covering both of those things that we heard from the public on at the board meeting. Any other discussion of the agenda? Then we call the board, the roll to adopt.
Mr. Brennan.
Yes.
Mr. Fergus.
Yes.
Ms. Gleaton. Ms. Herbert. Ms. Mood.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. And our next item is number 3, and we'll hear from the Midlands Transit Riders Association. Mr. Durst is here with us.
Charles is here as well.
I thought I recognized Charles, but my eyes won't read your name this far away, Charles.
I'm sorry. Yep, I'm off this week, and I was going to physically attend, but I had a bunch of errands, but I didn't want to miss it.
I'm glad. I'm glad you're here. Thanks.
Okay, couple of things in relation to operators. First of all, it used to be that when a bus would come to the transit station, that the operator would make an announcement saying such and such a route is arriving at transit. Some do and some don't. So it would be helpful if all did. Secondly, also relating to operators, and this is a clarification. I've been seeing, well, I'll give an example. 801 on Friday. I was taking it from Walmart, Harbison to back home to where I live. And the bus, when it stops at the Walmart Harbison, depending on what time it gets there, there's a lag time of where the the driver can get out, stretch their legs. If there's enough time, go to Walmart for a second and then come back out. In this case, the operator had enough time to do that, but instead she got back on the bus. We pulled up to the convenience store on the corner of Harbison and whatever that road is that comes out of Walmart. And she stopped there, went into the convenience store and got some stuff and then came back out. And then she drove rather fast to get on Broad River to make the time stops. So, and this is just one example. There's others that have been involved where operators will stop at like McDonald's, get a little something to eat in the morning and then continue on. So I'm pretty sure that's not in their training to do that. So that you guys might want to suggest that to the drivers, that if they have to stop, like to go to the bathroom or to get something to eat, that maybe they could do that down at the transit center instead of
at one of the scheduled stops where they have a little leeway in time.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's easy for people to think, well, it's probably inappropriate, and to think, well, that doesn't take much time. But when when I look at our on-time performance, and it's just matters of just a minute, you know,
An issue.
it makes a difference.
I know the standard is 1 minute early or 5 minutes late, and the sometimes
that's not much of a margin to work with. Yeah. I understand.
So anyway, that's what I have. Thank you.
Any questions from Mr. Hurst? Okay, thank you so much. Charles, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Actually, since Walter said that, I was just going to throw this in real quick. I was doing a chat. If you want the driver to handle these matters at the transit center or something of that nature, then you really need bathrooms, some type of vending and inside space at this new super stop if it's going to be handling the majority of the connections and whatnot, or else then Walter's point becomes largely you can't really put it in effect because they can't handle these matters at that super stop, and I don't see them.
That's why those are still live open issues for that super stop. At that, you make a good point. Okay, thank you. All right, then we'll move on to item 4, the adoption of minutes from September 13th. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So move.
A second?
Second.
And have a motion and a second. All in favor? Well, call the roll.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. Burgess?
Yes.
Wheaton? Ms. Herbert? Ms. Mood?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Minutes adopted. And that takes us into our discussion items. And the 5A that's listed as paratransit discussion, if you all remember, we had 2 people from the public speak at the board meeting, and I told the chair that we would follow up in the service committee on how to address those issues. And the first one was a rider who was trying to arrange for scheduled rides on darts, not day by day, because she knew she needed to be, I think it was at rehab. She was going to have surgery and she needed to be at rehab regularly on dates. And what she had encountered was the requirement that she do that day by day. And so Jackie, Mr. Matt, can you all shed some light on how does that work, and is that possible? I mean, I'm thinking of people too that ride DART to work Monday through Friday. So can they not schedule a Monday through Friday? They have to do it day by day? Just talk a little bit about that, if you will.
So actually, Dennis did reach out to her, and what they did was put her on what you call a subscription. So that way she'll be on the schedule to be picked up day by day. So he worked it out with her.
Okay, so there is some mechanism for doing that if people ask for it ahead of time.
Right. I think she wasn't aware of the subscription option. So when he reached out to her and explained it to her, he copied, I think Leroy, he copied me on the email as to how it was resolved.
Okay, well, and I guess I'm happy that, I mean, that got resolved for that one person, but I would want other people to be aware. That's not a subscription is not a term that's familiar to me, but I haven't been asking for it. So,
yeah.
So.
Madam Chairman, do we have a lot of folks that have this same issue?
That are regular riders?
Right.
That's what, what I want.
I mean, how can we promote the subscription outlet more to riders?
Actually, I think it's on the website. And in the paratransit handbook.
So, but we have a good, I guess, list of transit folks that use that service. Is there any way that we can, if somebody's calling like she was the week before and they're doing it consistently, can we identify that and say, hey, maybe they don't know about the subscription service?
Actually, according to Dennis, when he sent the email to us, he stated in the email that all of the dialysis clients are on subscription. That's who mainly this subscription is for, like the medical reasons for dialysis.
Okay.
So because we want to make sure they're picked up. Yeah.
And that they don't have trouble getting on the schedule
Right.
at the right time.
Right. They'll be on the same schedule because they go to dialysis at the same time, the same days.
So the only other thing I can think of we might do is that when Pam's doing these conversations with WLTX, you know, that would be an item of interest that for people who need to use that service, that would be another way to just highlight that.
I was going to
Also,
ask
there's a
if you
certain
wanted to
percentage of
mention it.
subscription. You can't, everyone can't be on subscription.
Oh, right.
There's a certain percentage. I think is it 50%? I think it's 50%.
Okay.
You can't go over 50% of your.
And is there a priority to that list, like for health, you know?
Right. The priority is mainly dialysis.
Okay.
Yeah. And cancer treatment.
So this is something marketing probably should not get involved with because it would put it out there too much.
Yeah.
So we don't really want to encourage it. We just want
to.
people to be aware of it that need it.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, that I think takes care of the response, and the response has already been made to the person we talked.
Mm-hmm.
The other issue that was brought to us was that Mr. Lewis, is that, I'm trying to remember his name because he visits with us. Mr. Lewis, I thought it was. Anyway, and he was talking about sometimes people getting passed by at stops where the tree limbs get in the way of the driver's line of sight, so he doesn't realize somebody's waiting at the stop. And I have to I'll own this bias, is that we have really encouraged people to plant trees because one of the things we hear is how hot it is, you know, when you're out waiting. And so personally, I don't want us to cut down trees for this, you know, to solve this problem, because I think we tried to plant them to solve a problem. So do we have a way, Mr. Mack, to just survey where our stops are, where this may be an issue, and see, because with careful trimming, I would think that we could take care of the problem without really destroying the trees.
So typically the way it works now is that when the driver encounters this type of situation, you call it in dispatch will make a note of it, and we report it to the comment so the trees can be trimmed around the bus stop sign, making it visible for the driver to see it. So I mean, it's not a major problem.
I was thinking would be spotty at certain sites, but and at certain times of the year even.
Right, right. So anytime we're aware of it, we'll.
So that you have a system for doing that.
Yes, ma'am.
And so we just need to be sensitive to that follow up.
We either contact the city to send someone out to trim the limbs, or our in-house bus stop technicians that monitor the bus stops and clean the bus stops. They can do the minor stuff like trim limbs. So yeah.
So let me give you a little lesson I learned from the nursery guy that helped me with tree planting. If you have somebody who's doing that's not somebody who works with trees, when you trim a limb off of a tree, you need to cut it absolutely flush with the tree the place that you're cutting, because if you leave a little knob off like that, that's an entry point for organisms that then you get right inside the tree. So when you see these like big trees that are cut down and the insides rotted out, that's because of improper pruning. And so, I mean, that's just a simple thing, but if we just make sure that if our staff is doing that, you know, if you have somebody come in who knows that's their business, that they may know that, but we might just watch for that, because what we don't want is for the tree to die unnecessarily. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's my little lecture for today. And anybody else have anything else to discuss in relation to those items? All right. Thank you so much, staff, for the follow through. All right. Passenger amenities program update. Have Mr. McGee with us? We do. Exactly. You can go ahead.
Yes. Good afternoon. This month we continue to coordinate with SCDOT on a couple of permits that we still had outstanding with them that they were needing some more information on. And also you'll notice on the list, there's quite a few stops that are approved, but have not been built yet. AOS, a lot of these were benches, so they're a little smaller. So AOS is kind of waiting for some more work nearby to pour the concrete for those. They should be able to get those pretty quickly still. Other than that, those are the biggest updates. If there's any questions on the report, I can answer those.
Anyone have questions for Zach? Zach, have we run into situations? I'm just realizing, I mean, so all of us are so aware of how much road construction is going on. Are we running into situations where that impacts our shelters and benches? Has it been necessary to move them?
I guess, do you mean road construction near existing benches and shelters?
Yeah. Have run into any of that?
Not that I'm aware of. I guess there is the one stop on Hardscrabble that's listed. Yeah, stop 1650. That project was under construction when we permitted it, and so it kind of needed to get to the contractors on the road widening needed to get to a certain place before we could really put the infrastructure out on that one.
So it just delayed that because of construction, but
yes, but
it's not. But road widening is not disrupting existing ones that we have that you know of.
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm sensitive to that because I live in the land of orange barrels these days. You know. Okay. Any other questions from Mr. McGee? All right, and we'll move on to the Lucius and River Super Stop, and I see Eric's with us online.
Yes, I am here. How's it going? Thank you to the members of the committee. Can you see me?
Yes.
So it may be a little noise in my background, coming at a conference and, you know, a lot of stuff going on all at one time. But I do want to share just some information. Some of this was shared before, but for the sake of conversation today, that way you can at least see where we are as it relates to the timeline for the Lucius and River Super Stop. 1 second. Okay. All right, I have it here. I'm about to share my screen. All right. So again, the Lucius and River Super Stop, we have a total of 8 bus bays. Well, 8 shelters, I'm sorry, 16 bus bays. And you can see the site of many of you that have been in person. We have a driver training area over here to the right, if you can see my mouse. And also we did extend the median for the site, and also there is now curb appeal at the site as well. We do have parking spaces that's also available for park and ride interest. But as we move down, I'm just kind of quickly going through this, just a couple of slides here. As we look at the project timeline, we issued the notice to proceed back in February of 2022. And then the primary construction period has been from that date to around May of April, May of last year. Of this year. And that was when we realized that we had a few issues with the cracking of the concrete. And from there, they committed to completing that by May of this year. And so there's still more of a gray area in between the way that the chart is designed out, in between that and resolving much of the issues that we're still going through today. Once we did realize that, hey, the issue is still existing, we tried to manage that space. And so now we're more so in that September corridor where we're trying to monitor it as best we can, but we're still having just a few issues with some leakage there. And I know that Jackie's been on site and Leroy can add more insight to that as well. to be able to probably better articulate, some of the litigation issues that we're going through. We're just trying to get on the same page with just a couple of the factors there, but we're working through it. But as of right now, I still preliminary timeline is to implement the project with phase 1 being in January 2024. We will have another public meeting in February to introduce phase 2. In July, we will have another public meeting, little typo there. July, we have another public meeting, and then in September, we'll be implementing phase 3 of the project. We've already started initial discussions with a number of different stakeholders, including the Earlwood neighborhood. And when we presented information to them, they were excited about the news, and they were more excited about the loop that was being proposed as a result at the end of this project that would bridge the gap for any delays and being able to access another, transfer. Any delays in transferring from one route to another to get to their destination. Here we go. So just looking at the service impact overview, and this is, some of you have may have already seen this, and this is a revised slide. This has been shared with the City of Columbia and also the Earlwood Neighborhood Association and all the other stakeholders. So it's more of an updated slide here, but we have a total of 16 service routes affected as a result of this project. We have 4 that fall in the category of low community impact, 7 that fall in the category of 7 medium impact. We have 5 that fall in the category of high community impact. And the way that they're delineated is that, if we implement or any type of adjustments to the service, what would be the scale of potential areas of conflict that we may endure as a result of the implementation. And in this case, if it's a low impact, low community impact, most people probably wouldn't see as much of a change as a result of the bus being extended or terminating at a given location within that downtown corridor. It's not going to be much of a change there. So, but we have 7 that fall into that medium category. And this could be, maybe it's a positive. Maybe if there's higher frequency on the route, maybe it is more of an extension on the route. If you were expecting the bus to operate every 30 minutes, but now the bus may be operating every 35 minutes, so it's not a smooth headway is how we would consider it in transit language. So, and also in 5, being high community impact, this could be a positive where a route goes from 30-minute headways, meaning frequency, where now the bus could almost arguably be at 15-minute headways. So those are the types of things. I mean, and also too, you have the negative connotation of it, where I would call it more so the challenging spaces opposed to negative, where you may see a more so increase in service, increase in time, waiting times, or the route is now being extended in so much of a way where technically someone could be could deem this situation as something that is positive. I have more access, but you also may have passengers that says, well, I just feel like this is not as convenient for me and my my natural travel pattern. But carrying on, looking at, we have 15 service routes unaffected by Lucius and River, which is a huge positive. We have 75% of those service routes will continue to serve the downtown area. And then Comet Central will have a 50% reduction in bus traffic. And we wanted to quantify that as well, and I can show you what that means on the next slide. But the last bullet point there is Lucius and River will have a 23% increase in bus traffic. So this is what the new site will have. So now quantifying it, currently today we have about 19 routes that currently serve Comet Central. Now, as a disclaimer, 93X no longer serves Comet Central, but in just looking at a high level of where we are as we initially planned the service, this is what we know that that currently exists: 19 routes serving Comet Central. As a result of the implementation of the plan, it will be 9 routes serving Comet Central, which will be Route 4, 12, 21, 42, 44X, 91, 93X, with the exception of 93S, depending on the circumstances and how we plan out for the future, but in Route 401 and also Route 501. So this is where things stand as of today. So this is the equation of that 50% reduction and how we're going to view the traffic. Now, even though we will see that change, we will still have routes that provide access to that downtown area. So just because there's a 50% reduction, it doesn't mean that people would not still have access to that main corridor of that concentrated downtown urbanized area. They still will have that access, whether it's through Assembly and Blanding or some other avenue throughout that area. And I believe that is the last slide. It was just a quick overview of the project. So that is the last slide, but I'm open to answer any questions that anyone may have regarding the project.
Would you send those 2 slides to us, to the committee members, just, by email? Could you do that too?
I'm sorry, Lil, can you ask that question again?
Yes, I was just asking if you would send the committee members copies of those 2 slides that you discussed.
I surely will.
Okay. Are there any questions for Eric about his report?
Madam Chair, this is Leroy.
Yes.
If I could just add a couple. One thing I want to go back with what Eric mentioned, just to give you an idea of the challenges that we're trying to work through, but I want to make sure that the committee understands where we are. As you know, starting back in August, September, we did address the issues that we had with entry of the buses to the super stop, so that was resolved. They also addressed the issue with the cracks and also the leak that we had. And after that, they wanted the site to have time to kind of like sit and see if the leak was finished. And what we've been doing is basically visiting the site weekly, sometimes twice a week, between myself, Jackie, and also Margaret. And we noticed the last couple of weeks, and I was over there last week, that the leak was still happening. We identified some cracks that we had some concerns with through Jackie and Margaret, and we quite naturally got all of this back to Brownstone, who was the lead on this project. And what they're going to do, and we actually communicated with them yesterday because I asked Jackie to walk the site again yesterday, and they're, because the biggest concern I have is the leak and also the cracks, but the big concern is the leak that's still happening. They told us yesterday that they're going to go in and do some more, I guess, root cause analysis to kind of see, can we identify where this leakage is, since it hadn't stopped in the past month and a half with what had been done. So hopefully in the next couple of days, the end of this week or by next week, we'll have that from them. And I will provide, and we can provide an update at the board meeting, or if it's something we need to provide before then, we'll do that. But that's the challenge that we face now, kind of like as a staff, and trying to stay on the timeline to see, can we provide service in January? That's our challenge, and those are things that we're trying to work through. But I want to make sure that I communicate that to the committee, so you all are up to date as much as we are on our challenges that we're facing over there.
Well, Leroy, that is a concern. Now, when you say leak, I remember the images that we had of where it was like storm water had washed under some of the concrete, and that was a problem both in terms of the support. But that's different from a leak. How would you describe the leak? What are you noticing? Are you noticing wet spots on the concrete in various places?
Yeah, this is a leak that actually came up in the middle of the lot.
In the middle
of the lot, near the shelters.
So, and if it continues, we've either got a water feature we didn't identify, like a spring, or we've got a pipe that's cracked in it.
So what they did during the repairs, when they were trying to repair the leak. They had to dig up the concrete again, and then put it back down. Once they finished all the new concrete, they put in a device in the ground, in the concrete, that will allow them to run a hose somewhere underground to draw the water off. And that's what's over there now. There's a metal disc that's in the concrete that will allow you to put a hose in down through it to draw water wherever the water is. And apparently that has to be done, I guess, as needed. But after that process, when I checked it a week or so later, now the leak that was at that location where that disc they put, now the leak has moved down farther at a new location, but within the same path.
Well, it sure sounds like we hadn't gotten to the source of the problem.
Yes, we agree. And that's why with our conversation and communications with Brownstone yesterday, I guess them and the engineers, they hope that they can go back and do, like I said, some more analysis and try to find the root cause since it's still leaking. And they said, hopefully they can identify that in the next couple of days.
Okay. Well, Leroy, I know that the board will want an update on this, on the agenda this month. So we just make sure we make that agenda item from them rather than trying to report it from this committee. I think.
Oh, yes, definitely.
We'll go straight to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I thought with my communications with them, you know, which we kind of have on a quite naturally on a weekly basis, is as we lead into this and into the board meeting based on our January date, you know, we need to resolve this. But I know
yes,
this is a challenge we didn't expect, but I want to let you all know that staff is constantly checking and reviewing, and we want to make sure it's reported here and also to the board.
Well, thank you for that and for staying on top of it, because that's serious. All right. Any other questions on the Lucius and Rivers Superstop? All right, then we'll go to Mr. Mack. You're going to report to us on the transit operations.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everybody. First thing I want to talk about is employee recognition. I'd like to talk about our employee of the month, which is Operations Supervisor Jerry Pugh. Jerry Pugh has been with the Comet for over 40 years. I mean, he's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to transit, when it comes to the area within Columbia. You know, I like to use Navy acronyms. I would call Mr. Pugh the Master Chief Petty Officer of Transit because he's been around such a long time. So a big bravo Zulu to Mr. Pugh. Moving on, COVID cases, you know, we had a total of 3 COVID cases in September. We have had 1 reported case this month, October. We're continuing our campaign for safety protocols for COVID, like making sure you wash your hands. If you come to work, you're not feeling good, wear a mask so you don't spread anything. And putting out information about the vaccine and the boosters. KPIs, our on-time performance for the month of September was below our target goal, was 73.56. We did see about a 3.12% decrease from last month. And we did, of course, we had a new run cut that we did on the 24th of September. But we also have discovered that there are some issues, some technical issues with the software that's causing a problem. So we have been working closely with the Comet team to drill into the software to see if we can get those concerns addressed so we can get a more accurate on-time performance, because I don't believe that number is accurate, because we have looked at some routes that, you know, the software is saying one thing and then you pull a report is saying another thing. So we are actually drilling into that very deeply with the Comet and our IT department to see if we can get it resolved.
And then there also was a decrease in the DART on-time performance.
Yes.
That's unusual. How would you explain?
I would, that is possibly a software issue, but I don't have access to their software. So I probably would have to say that that's probably, you know, I would prefer Dennis to be here to speak on that, because he would know whether if it's an issue with an actual on-time performance or if there's an issue with, I don't know what else could have caused it, if it was due to driver shortage and drivers had multiple trips that made them run later. So, but it was a decrease.
Did you follow up with Mr. Franklin and ask him to send us something that whatever he investigated and found there, or what he's doing at present to see?
Yes, ma'am. For preventable accidents, per 1,000 miles was 0.10, which is within our target goals. Our total monthly complaint rate is a little bit higher than it was per 10,000 riders. It's still within the target. It was 5.78%. We're still within the target, but I think we can do better. I will say that we did a pretty good campaign. We did see a decrease in the amount of pass-by complaints that we were receiving. So that was successful.
So you have decreased those? We
have decreased those.
Right.
Our preventative maintenance for the month, and dealing with the PMs, we are, of course, at 100% on the 60 PM schedule. We completed 60. So good job to the maintenance department. Our staffing, we currently have 122 operators, with 4 of those being trainees. And we have 6 that are out on various types of leave, whether it be medical or leave of absence. And that is causing some issues with covering routes, because we do currently have 5 open runs. But other than that, that's all I have to report. I'm open for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Mack? Just keep tracking on those same key indicators.
Thank you.
All right, and I'm looking at ridership, and this will be kind of a segue over to Eric's report too. But we had a decrease in ridership. It looks pretty significant to me from September of 22 to 23. Went from 170,000 plus to 134,000 plus, which isn't really what we expect in September, is it? So does anybody have any insights into that? Eric, feel free to chime in.
Believe it. Well, I can't say I have the deepest root of an analysis around it, but I can say it is believable that we do have that much of an increase. Seeing that the previous month we were up by 37,000 passengers. So that and this is from July. Let me specify, from July to August, we were up by 37,000 passengers. So seeing that much of a decrease by the time we get to September, I would assume that will be likely because it was such a significant increase over 1 month to the next.
So tell me the logic in that.
So part of that logic is USC is back in school. You do have
so that would make it go up in August.
Yep, that would make it go up in August.
But why would it go down in September if the students are still there?
Correct. And by the time we get to September, you also have the factors of some students are no longer at the university. You got a high enrollment, but then you deal with the factors of people being unenrolled because they couldn't satisfy the terms of the bill or any other factors that may play a role into some of that decrease. That's one thing that I would look at. I think I would have to bona fide take a look at removing the 1 second. I probably can do it now. Let me see if I can at least play.
The university rides that, see how much difference that makes.
Well, and it's still tough even from looking at it from that vanishing point. because we're still looking at around about 20,000 additional passengers from the previous month. So we just saw a very huge uptick in the month of August. Maybe it's the end of the summer. People are moving around. This is one of the highest upticks I think we've had, because even from last year, it was still pretty significant in the same fashion. We saw around a 30,000 passenger uptick. And much of that, again, is credited to the university, but also, too, I think it's just transitioning from that summertime to students are going back to work, kids are getting ready to go back to school, and that playing a huge role in just in terms of how we're seeing those numbers.
Well, I really would appreciate it if, Leroy, if the staff members could put your heads together to see what can we look at, because we don't want this to be a trend of a downward trend in riders and just speculating. I mean, Charles and Walter, if you all get insights into what you see, can observe or hear from riders themselves about what would account for a significant drop in ridership, we'd want your input into that conversation too.
Okay, we'll definitely, from a staffing standpoint, we'll see if we can identify, some other things that may have happened that we overlooked. Yes, definitely.
Overall, I was looking at the ridership by route, and it looks like our truck lines do great, and then the smaller routes are not as heavy, but it's not a decrease in doesn't look like it's a decrease in our main.
Well, do we know if last month that trend continued? Was there a decrease in ridership in September as well, 2023?
Well, we don't have that data yet. I mean, because it takes a while.
So, all right, well, with that, I mean,
what we're looking
was
at.
Was it a consensus? Was it a steady decline from August 2022 to 23? I mean,
I can kind of answer that question. So in the month of June, we were at 114,000 passengers, and I'm just looking at the whole number here. Then we went to about 104,000 passengers in the month of July. And then we saw a huge uptick to 137,000 passengers in the month of August. Now, in comparison to the previous year in the same trend, we have definitely increased in ridership. So if we compare apples to apples, June to June, we're looking at around 102 passengers in the month of June versus 114. We're looking at 99 passengers in the month of July versus 103 passengers, 103,000 passengers. And then we're looking at 134,000 passengers in August in comparison to 137,000 passengers. So it's still more of a upward trend, whether it's a couple of thousand or not. We're still seeing a positive growth from year to year.
Hey, now, Eric, look at page, do you have the packet, the committee packet in front of you? I'm looking at page 22 on average daily ridership.
Okay.
And what I'm looking at is from, we were going right along in July with from 22 to 23 increases. And then in August, we went from August of 22 to August of 23, we were down 9%. And then from September 22 to September 23, comparing those 2 months a year apart, we were down 21%. That's the thing that's, and I know that analysis by route is delayed getting to you, but just the broad numbers that RapDev provides us in this ongoing, their ongoing monthly report where we get that ridership before a month ahead of getting the route analysis. Do you see why that looks that just looks strange.
Which 2 months are y'all comparing?
Are you on page 22?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm looking at monthly ridership.
Okay.
And if you look by month, from the same month last year to the same month this year, each one of those were going up through July. And then you get to August and it went down 9%. And then September last year to September this year, it went down 21%. I mean, that's.
Okay, I'm looking at August because I was looking at my notes for August. In my notes, the dark clientele went down in August due to Hurricane Idalia, when all the dark clients canceled their rides. So that happened for dark, and also affect fixed route some as well.
Because all of these numbers are all fixed route, aren't they?
Yeah, those are fixed routes. So yeah, that's what I had in my notes for August, what happened.
And here's the other thing that I'd like for Eric, for you to look at more closely is in your ridership report. Now I'm on page 34 of our that one shows from August 22 to August 23, which ought to be the same, roughly the same numbers as from the RAPDEV report, but it's a very different picture because look at the top, it says from August of 22, 156,850 compared to their 150 something, which is not too bad different. But to August of 23, it shows 160,859 on your report and 136,820 on the RAPDEV report. So I feel like we've got some real discrepancies. It's hard to monitor what's happening when the numbers don't match.
Madam Chairwoman.
Yes.
Can we have staff dig into this?
Yes,
because
that's
I think
what
it's
I'm asking.
I think it's, especially now, it's very important for the board and
to know what direction we're going.
Well, yeah, well, to understand the numbers and the trend.
Right. So would you all see what you can do to see how to reconcile those differences?
Yeah, it looks like some numbers are included in one report. They're including like some of the dark numbers in it. In another report, numbers are not being included. So we'll.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because I think that's one thing about Eric's report. His report may include pretty much all the different ridership numbers that we're coming up with, even from the enterprise rental portion and all of that. So yeah, we'll definitely dig into this and make sure we're providing good information.
Please do. That would be a help. Any other questions about the ridership analysis? If not, then we entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And I second, and we take a voice vote. Aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned. Thank you.
Are we going to meeting